So for Exducis then, Jane, why would they choose us?
Well, this is a big question, isn't it? There are so many retreats and leadership events out there, and I'm sure there are fantastic ones that really help people to get to where they want to be. And Phil, when we came up with the idea of Exducis, we wanted to create something very different, didn't we? We wanted it to be on another level, transformational, not just informational. And so why would people choose us? Well, people can choose whoever they want. They can go wherever they want. And, it might not be that it's everybody's choice to come to a fantastic retreat in another country and spend that time and energy coming along. And yet what I would say to people is, when you are looking for a retreat, when you are looking for a leadership development program, there are some certain things that you need to make sure are there, that you need to make sure get a green tick next to it before you make your decisions. I would say that you need to be working with people who've got a real wealth of practical experience working in a range of different organisations. So, between us, we've probably talking about 40 different organisations at a very senior level where we've worked in different industries with different challenges, and yet we know the themes, don't we? We know the themes are the same based on the executives that we've been working with. So that's really important to have that wealth of experience. Also, when executives and senior leaders are looking to develop themselves, they need to be thinking about, well, what do I want to get at the end of it? What haven't I done so far? Now, quite a lot of the time, people have learned new skills, new techniques, which are all really helpful. Where we are coming from with this is that we want to give something people have never had before. We want to take them to another level psychologically. Exducis, the leader of leaders. This is not just about being a great leader of your team or a great manager. This is about a leader of leaders. This is about leading on strategy, leading on innovation, whether it's in your organisation or in your industry, positioning yourself as an expert. And so what we do with Exducis is we give people the ingredients they need within themselves to look at what they're doing, to do more, get more, and to be more. So that was probably one of the most important things as well to think about. Another ingredient that would help a person decide whether Exducis would be the right place for them would be to think about, am I going to be working with people who get me, who've worked with people like me? And so because we've worked with thousands of individuals in our careers and hundreds of teams, I think we've just got that breadth of understanding about what executives face on a daily basis. But also, we've set ourselves apart, Phil, haven't we? We've gone that extra mile by having award-winning programs from inception to planning, working with stakeholders within different organisations, implementation, evaluation, and seeing it through to the point where we've had external organisations giving us awards and saying, we recognise what you've done, and it's market leading. And so that's another thing to really consider when people are considering a retreat is, am I going to be working with people who are recognised externally as well as internally in different organisations? Have they got that seal of approval from governing bodies, from people who are actually leading in neuroscience, psychology, coaching? And so, checking that people have got awards, that they've had accolades from external sources, really important. And I'm wondering as well is, we're talking here about why would they choose us? Why would they choose us to deliver Exducis? Why would we choose them, Phil? What is it that we are looking for in our ideal delegate?
Well, for me, it's somebody who wants to learn more. It's somebody who's willing to look in the mirror and realise that at the moment they don't have all the answers. And they may never will. That's fine. That's a level of personal acceptance in itself. But we are looking for people that are looking to do something different. They're looking to be proactive. They're looking to do the hard work psychologically. They're willing to answer the difficult questions, because we will ask difficult questions, but at the same time, we'll be there to support them. And that's not for everybody. We fully understand that. And you and I know with some of our clients, unfortunately, people don't want to look in the mirror. It's always deflected to somebody else. So yeah, our ideal candidate is somebody who's future focused, somebody who's innovative, somebody who's naturally driven and hungry for more. Because we can really work with that. We can shape it. We're looking for somebody that just wants to be better, not just for themselves, but for the organization, for their people, for their executive leaders, and for their shareholders. And that's our ideal candidate.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we've discussed a lot about why Exducis and the model that we've got works so well, and it's something about that community as well. Do you want to say a little bit about what we've created in the Exducis community?
Well, what continually excites me about the Exducis process and the methodology is the fact that, yes, it's there and it's fixed, but the way we deliver it is bespoke to the individual. So we get that time collectively together to work out and co-create some solutions to some of their challenges. And then we've got that community of learning with their peers, with like-minded people. And the biggest benefit we see is that they're from cross-industry. And what executives will see when they come on this course is that the pain they're feeling is not just theirs. It's other people in other industries are feeling it, and it's okay. It is normal, but it doesn't have to be that way. And what I really, really believe in is that creative learning, that environment of learning, the shared experience of learning is how we co-create. It's like wisdom is the ability to know that you don't know anything, and when you start from that base level, regardless of how driven you are, you're always going to learn more, and you're always going to see another way, and you're always going to find a solution. And I think that's where, when we get this small number of selected people into an environment, a pure learning environment, where everybody's there to make everybody else better, to push and strive and to create that collective community of learning, I think it is incredible. We know, we've seen it.
Yeah, and it is exciting, isn't it? Because it is different, and that's why we are so passionate about delivering Exducis and the code and having people experience this like they've never experienced anything before. And we are so excited about it because we know the impact. And yet some people might be wondering when they're listening to this, this all sounds great. The Exducis Code, it sounds amazing. I don't know if I've got time for this. What would you say to that person?
Time is always the barrier that we come up against time and time again, and no pun intended there. But yeah, time, it's not a case of you haven't got time. You're just not willing to prioritize yourself right now. That's what you're really saying. So if you're walking around in a fog, if you're wondering what you're bouncing around meeting to meeting, and you're reading the joining instructions or the meeting agenda before you're walking in, and you're just tired and exhausted, and you're having to do 14, 16-hour days, and you're not spending time with your family, you never mind, the thought of going to the gym and having time for yourself. It's ridiculous. We can't go on like this. So maybe now is the right time, I'd suggest, that you prioritize yourself. And, the benefits you'll get from it is that you will think more clearly, you'll have more of a strategic vision, you'll be able to prioritize better, which will help the people further down your organization. So time is a big barrier. Time is probably the one resource we can't replace. So if you're not going to do it now, when are you going to do it? Because at some point in the future, you're going to need something like this.
Yeah. One thing that comes to mind when you're saying that, Phil, is the challenge that a lot of people have in managing their home life, work-life balance as well. And so time is so elusive, isn't it? Especially when we get busier and busier, and it gets away from us. When people come to work with us for executive coaching, I know we take a very business-focused and strategic view. Quite often we end up talking about people's bigger picture, don't we? We talk about their home life as well, because we know that any executive, any leader is a person, they're a human being. They've got a home life to manage as well. So sometimes it feels a little bit narrow-minded to be just focusing on their performance at work. We need to look at the bigger picture. And I think that sometimes takes a lot of people by surprise, because they think, I didn't expect to be talking about things like this in my coaching and in my development. And yet it's so helpful, because I think once we've mastered certain things in our home life, it becomes a bit easier to implement it in our professional lives as well. If we were thinking about, from a very holistic perspective, about what this could bring to a senior leader, an executive person who is really successful and yet knows that they just want to get balance back in their lives, What would you say to that person if they're considering coming along to Exducis?
I think for me, again, going back to that point of prioritization, priorities change day to day, and you can make a conscious decision about that. And what I mean is, one of my personal premises is that there's no such thing as a work-life balance. It's just life, and work is part of that. And that's not to underplay work. Work is a huge part of our identity. It's part of our success story. It's part of our legacy that we're trying to create. But on times, and unfortunately, it takes something drastic for us to reorganize our priorities sometimes, to put our family first. But more often than not, we're not working smart. We're just in that rut of day-to-day work, and if it's those 12, 14, 16 hours, that's normal for us. It's normally okay for us when we're in the middle of it. It's the people outside of that are going to be affected. It's the ones that, because I didn't manage my time effectively, or my managers and leaders are not, that's affecting me. So I've got to get up early on a Saturday morning to bang out a few emails and to reply to a few queries. And then, I'm rushing around, and it's not good quality time with my family. Science, science is telling us we need this now. We need it for our wider well-being. We need to have these pillars of our life that turn us into this highly productive, highly level-headed, engaged human being. And I think that one of the fundamental things of that is we bury ourselves into work, and we just work harder, and be able to have that presence of mind to take a step back, to take that strategic view, not just of the organization, but of yourself. And that's exactly what Exducis does. It's that opportunity. And that's what it is. It's a golden opportunity for somebody to come away and go, right, I'm going to invest a few days here in myself for me to be able to help other people even more, including my family and friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is one of the biggest challenges that we see for successful people, because when they're at work, they are respected, they are revered. People can see how productive they are. They are, at the top of their game, and people want to be them. They are really, really living the dream quite a lot of the time at work. And yet, when they walk through the door, when they get home, they feel devalued, disrespected, disengaged. They feel like an outsider, sometimes as in part in their family unit. And we see this so often. And of course, we know that doesn't have to be like that. And it's really hard for some people to understand why that has happened, and why, because we question ourselves, why am I doing so well at work and yet my home life feels like it's fallen apart? We know, don't we, that there's a balance to be struck there. And that's what we really do as well with Exducis, because we look at the holistic person, we look at the bigger picture, and we find out what do people want it to look like. Then we help them achieve that. So we really do focus on the perfect scenario, and then the code applies itself to whichever gaps there are that need to be filled, and helps them to get to that point where they feel great about going home at the end of the day as well, to the people that they actually care most about, because they are the people that they're doing it for after all, and yet they're the people who tend to suffer the most. So we need to get that sorted out. That's what we do well.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of the executives we work with, they do confide in us. They feel like a bit of an intruder when they go home. So they're doing these 16, 17 hours days to justify to themselves their worth, but the knock-on effect of that, and I must add this, is the fact that when you're in such a senior role, you're the role model. People within your organization are looking up to you. So if you're burying yourself for 16, 8 hours a day, you're sending emails on a Saturday at midnight because that's the only time you can cram it in, that's what they think you're expecting of them, unless you're communicating effectively your vision and what works for you. Whereas I certainly know that some of the forward-thinking organizations that are successful right now, the CEO makes a point of saying, right, it's the middle of December, I'm finishing at 2 p.m. on Wednesday because I'm going to see my child in their Christmas concert. That is a priority for me. The rest of the year, I am burying myself, and I'm fully committed to this organization. But to make a statement like that in terms of priorities is so important from the top. But it's just a matter of perspective, I think, and understanding the impact these executives have. Because also speaking to middle to senior leaders, they forget that the execs are human too. They've got feelings, they've got lives, they've got families, as you say. And going back to your point regarding home life, it's not fair for an executive to go home and feel like an intruder in their own home, because they're spending so much time traveling. They're in and out of lounges, they're on planes, they've been to these big meetings. that when they do get home, they're the intruder because family life carries on without them. And I think this is where the stress and strain comes from. And I think you're exactly right. The Exducis Code is about business professionals, but the principles behind it can be mapped across to life in general, because it's only one shot we've got at life. And we've got to, if we're looking at making an impact and creating a legacy of families, that's fantastic. But there's a way of doing that and taking the family with us.
Yeah. Exducis Code is a code for life, isn't it? It's a code to live by. It's not just about what I do at work. It's about who I am as a person. And the skills that executives and leaders learn when they come to Exducis is very much about who do I want to be? How am I going to make that happen? What will other people see in me if I'm successful in that? And how do I know and how do I measure if I'm on track with it? And we give them all the tools for that, which is just phenomenal to see from where people are when they come through the door, which is sometimes exhausted, stressed out. They know they need something, they're just not always sure what it is. To unpick that with them and to get them to a point where they are walking away from our Codex 1 module and they're saying, right, now I know what I need to do. Now I know what it'll look like. Now I know what's important to me again. I've reconnected with myself. Here we go. Next step.
Yeah, and that's a great point you're making there around the executive's point of call internally is normally the HR director. And depending on the setup of the organization, that HR director might actually sit on the executive board. It takes a really strong relationship between, a senior executive and a HRD for the senior person to say, hey, I think I need some time out here. I need to go on a developmental course. Or it takes a HRD with a strong personality to say, somebody further up the chain to say, hey, I think maybe you need to go on something like this. It doesn't tend to work that way. And the reason for that is HRDs themselves are really busy. So there's a great discussion I'm having around at the moment. Who's looking after the HRDs?
Of course.
So everybody's feeling a little bit isolated. Everybody's trying to do the right thing. And we know through our history and our results is that once people come on it, they refer friends onto it and contacts that they care about because they want them to feel the same sort of clarity of purpose of where they're going, and they want to be recharged and ready for it because this fog they're feeling and seeing and the pressures on their shoulders at the moment, it doesn't have to be that way.
When we think about HR directors, you're right there, Phil, because quite often they're focusing so much on the strategy and delivering the strategy, delivering training and technical skill, that they get very focused on hiring individuals who are proficient in that particular skill. So they might have somebody to come in and help them with their staff survey. It might be engagement surveys. It might be some coaching. And yet what we know is that people who are experts in one thing typically aren't all-rounders. And this is really where we come in, and we're so proud to be able to deliver something at a high level that encapsulates everything the organisation needs regarding their people, regarding engagement, because we know if the leaders get the Exducis Code under their belt, they really understand it and understand how to apply it, that filters down everywhere. So people might ask us, well, why would I go with you guys? Why would we come to Exducis when we've got something in our city that is running, I can just pop in, pop out, job's a good one, all of that. And yet, okay, you could go along to that and that might give you something, but we know that we've got that breadth of knowledge and understanding that we've gained from a joint 40 years or so of on the job, getting on with it, supporting leaders, creating communities, and we want to share that. And it is on another level. We can't doubt it. It's on another level from typical leadership development.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And a lot of the clients we have give us the feedback of we're really positive, critical friends. And the reason I really like that quote is because the positive is about the intention. It's asking those difficult questions that maybe somebody internally can't ask for fear of reprimand, for fear of career fouls, for wondering about, concerned about upsetting somebody. Whereas we're there having an in-depth conversation around it, and asking those difficult questions because like the old adage says, your best friends are the ones who ask you the difficult questions and they challenge your thinking in a good way. They're there to support you. And I think I really like that way of being described as a positive, critical friend because not everybody can do that. You think you can have internal coaches. That's great up to a certain level, but I think the execs need that external professional approach and extremely credible coaches who know what they're doing and have got the background such as us. So with that then, what do you see as the huge benefits? Because I definitely see it regarding a performance psychologist and a performance coaching. What's the synergy there for them?
Well, Phil, I think the first thing to say is that they get the credibility, they get the experience that, we've spent many, many years building up all of our knowledge. We've done all the learning for them, haven't we? So instead of us selling them an education where we might have gone away and done, collectively 12 years of studying between us to get that information, we're just passing on the transformation, aren't we? And we can do that because we've got such a wide understanding of so many disciplines within organisations. As a performance psychologist, my background is occupational psychology. So, as a registered psychologist who specialises in executive coaching, I've done all of the background, all the research, all of the methodologies. People don't have to worry about thinking about what they need. We can look at the situation for them and give them what they need. We can make those decisions for them. And you as a performance coach, an expert in human behaviour, having worked with, athletes and people striving to get to the Olympics, you're working with people in that top 1% of mindset, aren't you? We used to working with people who know what they want, who work hard to get it, who are willing to sacrifice whatever it takes to get to that end point. So our experience, we bring it from them as well. We bring all of what we've experienced with our clients because, hey, we've learned a lot from them, haven't we? We've got it all there and it's all ready to share. And so if anybody's wondering, well, why would I go with a performance coach, an expert in human behaviour and a psychologist who specialises in coaching? Why them? Well, I think just the titles in themselves say a lot, don't they, about where we've come from. If you wanted to have heart surgery and you were faced with a really experienced and expensive cardiologist or somebody who's just done a weekend course in heart surgery, but they're half the cost, I tell you what, you're getting your credit card out, aren't you? And if it's a family member, you are paying double because you want it to be right. Quality and experience, there's no price on that. It's about what you're getting out of it. It's about trust. It's about knowing that you're in an environment with absolute professionals who get you. You don't have to explain yourself. There's no excuses there. There's no judgment there. It's just about being in the right room with the right people who just get you and will give you the ingredients to move on.
So no excuses at Exducis.
There you go.
I think as well there's a big part around the methodology we use and also their approach to the methodology, because there's a difference between knowing and doing. We talk about this regularly, and as practitioners and pracademics, we're all about getting results and getting that performance. And I think it's fundamental for our clients, our future clients, to know that there's no egos here. It's not about you and I, it's about the client. It's all about them. It's about them striving to be where they want to be and having the tools to maybe get there a little bit quicker, to get there a little bit smarter, and maybe with a little bit, of spare energy. Imagine that, having a bit of energy left in the tank. And certainly the elite athletes and the business executives and the award-winning executives that we work with, they see us as like a trusted safety net as well. Post the course, we build such a strong relationship with them that element I talked about as a critical friend is that really means something to them, that they've got that support network when they go back to work, that it's not just an event, it's an experience, and it's about positive relationships, and they know they can drop us an email or they can pick the phone up and just have a positive sounding board with credible people that they get on with. And we do know this, life's all about relationships, and we're very good at building rapport with our clients and having long-standing relationships. And as we know, a lot of our clients come along, they come to Exducis, and before we know it, we're in working with organizations because they see the positive benefits of that. And the statements they make to us is, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? If I invested in myself and I've made that statement, why wouldn't I want my executive board to experience it? Why wouldn't I want my senior leadership team? Because they're the one that drives the day-to-day operations. We're the ones that drive the strategy. Let's align it all together. And that's the biggest sort of kudos and credibility I think that we bring to the table too.
Definitely. You know, people might wonder when they're listening to this, this sounds a little bit out of my comfort zone, you know, this is all sounding a little bit like it's going deep and meaningful, and I'm not sure that I've got the energy to go there. One of the biggest things I would say that holds people back in that regard and sends us that little voice in our head that says, not sure about this sounds a bit touchy-feely, might be a bit too deep and meaningful. But that voice is there as a protection mechanism, because quite often people feel like they haven't got anything left in their pot. They haven't got anything left to be able to give. So just to give you that reassurance, if you're listening to this, that we don't judge. We have seen it all. We've heard it all. And we also know that everybody who comes along to Exducis, our training events, or has executive coaching with us, they're all doing their best. Everybody's just trying hard to do their best. And we see that in you. We see that in all of our clients. And even though it feels quite novel or new or vulnerable or whatever the word might be for each individual to step out of their comfort zone and to come along to something like this where maybe they might feel a bit exposed or a little bit judgmental on themselves as well, thinking, I should have done something about this years ago. Just want to reassure people listening to this that that's not what Exducis is about. Exducis is not about getting people in a room to feel ashamed of the reason they're there in the first place. It's not about people who just want a quick fix to come along, listen to something for a couple of days and then feel better about themselves. This is about people who know there's more to life. They know there's more to themselves. They know they've got more to give, but they're just a little bit stuck and they feel like they're spinning the wheels a bit and they just need a bump start to get going again so they can get that momentum back, so that they can keep pushing forward and achieve what they know they're capable of. And we get that and we see that in them, and we're there to support that process, and we do it with passion and integrity and with a lot of care and love as well. You know, these people who we spend time with, because we are taking time out of our busy schedules as well, aren't we, Phil? And yet that feels so good. It feels really worthwhile and it feels really productive, and everybody gets something from it. We learn every time we're in a room with senior executives. We learn about ourselves as well. And I think if everybody comes with an open mind that there might be something that I don't know about other people, and there might be something I don't know about myself, and I'm open to finding out a bit more about it, and I'm willing to just go with the flow, those people get so much from attending these events.
And I think one of the fundamental focuses is that future focus. It's we may have to have a little conversation around, you know, why you're a little bit stuck, but that's not our main goal. You know, if you want a bit of understanding of why you feel that way, but it's all about, let's understand where we are. Let's calibrate where we're at right now and where you want to be and how you're going to get there, and getting that roadmap. And that certainly crosses over with the elite athletes I coach. You know, they might have had a bad race or a bad experience or a bad training block or a bad period or even a bad season for some of them. But it's about parking it. You know, it's being okay with it, taking all the learnings you possibly can, not dwelling on it, not having a pity party, not thinking, well, I wish I did this 12 months ago, 24 months ago. It's where are you right now? Because the only thing you can take control of is the future. And the future's in your hands. And without a shadow of a doubt, with the Exducis Code in your hands, you're going to fly, you're going to flourish, and you're going to be, you know, that version of success, whatever that means to you, you're going to achieve it.
Yeah. The Exducis Code really feels like a really special piece of information. It's not just words in a book. It's not just a set of instructions. It's something that we bring to life and people live it, they step into it and they become it. And so, you know, we just want to encourage anybody who feels like they've got something else in them, something else they can give, and they just need that support, to be open-minded to what Exducis can bring to them, because being a leader of leaders is a privilege. It's an absolute honour that so many people would strive for and never get there. And what I would say is, if somebody's listening to this and they are a leader of leaders, if they want to become a leader of leaders, Exducis is the way. It's the path to getting to that point and just doing it really, really well.